Hey there, beautiful sunny afternoon. Good time to repair the turn signal that my previous owner handed on to me. This actually is probably the factory bulb, but it's supposed to sit in a housing that, as you can see, is no longer there. Thankfully, these are all sold as reproductions. So, order yourself a new housing and plug it in. Except, unless your previous owner connected the old wiring from the housing directly to the wiring from the body. What do you do then? Well, you got to fix things. So, let's get to fixing it. First thing, let me show you. This is the Reproduction housing. It is labeled right hand. That's for the other side, and you can kind of tell because there's a slant to it to match the slant of the front of the truck. Here is the left side or driver's side. You can see it slants that way. I got these from BJ's Off-Road. I got the pair. It includes the lenses and the wiring, except the wiring doesn't match the factory coloring. So that'd be easy enough. It wouldn't be a big deal if I had the original harness plug to plug it into. As you can see, I don't. So I've got to recreate that harness plug. Thankfully, being the pack rat that I am, every time I parted out or disassembled an old Jeep, I saved the factory connectors. And this is not specific to Jeep. These are GM type connectors as well. And perfect. It'll plug right in. So all I've got to do is clip these off, add some factory style connectors here, plug them into the appropriate openings in the housing. Then I can plug in my new Reproduction turn signal lens and housing. Alright, let's get to fixing these. First thing you have to do is take out the old wires. That's pretty easy, because these connectors have a little tab that locks into the housing as it slides in. You can see there's a little raised portion for that locking tab to go in. Originally, it would have looked like that. So what you've got to do is reach in to press that tab and then pull it out, which is what I'm going to do to this last connector here, this last wire on this connector. Push this in to press that connector, to press that little tab, and while pushing in the housing, pushing in the wiring, wiggle it out. Now I've got a nice clean housing to plug in my new connectors. You can buy these new connectors. They're Packard type 56 connectors in the female or the male version. These are the female versions. So I've just got to strip back the wires and then crimp these on. And it's easier to access this through the headlight housing than through this little housing here, so I took off the headlight as well. So I have my gray wire, my black wire, and my blue wire. Gray is for the turn signals, blue is for the front marker lamp illumination, black is for ground. This going in the trash. illustrate what's going to happen here. This is going to sit right in there. I'm going to crimp this part of the connector over the insulation, crimp this part of the connector over the wire. We first strip them all back. Ooh, that wire wasn't very good. Let's try that again. Well, that wiring is coming apart. I don't want to have to lengthen it. Try this one more time. Here I'm just wiggling this cutter. It's not the most precise cutter. If you have a better set of wire strippers, God bless you. This one seems to want to grab as I pull the insulation off. Wants to cut the wires as well. I don't want that. I'm going to wiggle it back and forth, let the blades do their cutting, and gently slide it off. Oof. Not the prettiest thing. You can tell the wire's been corroded, so I'm going to try and clean that off with some corrosion remover. The ground cable is a little bit better. Take a look at the blue. Hope this one is not as bad as the gray. I'll be gentle with it anyway. It too, showing signs of corrosion, a little brownish in there, so we'll clean that off with some QD electrical cleaner. And since those wires are a little back from this black one, I'm going to trim this down a bit. Strip a new fresh section. Strip a little bit more than that. Not a lot of wire for the terminal to grab onto. There we go. All right. I don't know if you can see that. I use this crimping tool that will bend over those little blades and crimp it right into the wire. It tends to be easiest to get the insulation on first. So I set this into the crimper, slide my wire into place, and the wire connector snapped. Luckily, they sell them in multiple packs. Don't know why it did that. Let's do it again. First time that's ever happened. Glad I caught it on film. There we go. So that connector is grabbing into the insulation. Now it's time to crimp this piece onto the wiring. What does that call for? This ranges from 14 to 18. So that's 16 or 18 gauge wire. This crimp should be enough. Should be the right one. There we go. Factory style crimp. Holds the insulation and it makes the connection to the wire. Solid, not coming off. Just do that for the other two wires. The insulation, then crimp the wires. If you really want a super secure connection, what you can do is solder. Just add a dab of solder right there. Heat it up, add a dab of solder. Factory didn't need to do it. You don't need to do it. If for ever any reason I feel the need to do that, I can always come back in here and add the solder later. So, that connector broke as well. Not having good luck today. Usually don't break them. Alright. Got plenty more connectors where that came from. Let's try it again. Alright. All crimped. Now, just got to plug them in to the housing. How do I know where to plug them in? Well, the factory wiring diagram, as you can see here, shows the connectors and it shows where each of the wires goes in that connector. The bottom of it is going to be the ground. The upper left is going to be the illumination, the blue wire, and the upper right is going to be the brown wire, or no, in this case the gray wire. Brown will be on the other side. So I just got to plug them in the appropriate slots. Black into the bottom. Blue into the upper left. these tabs aren't grabbing. Sometimes you have to bend them up. Oh. Or plug them in the way that the tabs are going to lock into place. That'll work as well. Then the gray in the upper right. Make sure your wires are not crossed with anything else or they're going to be stretched. There we go. That is that. Brand new factory style connector. Left side turn signal. I'll just plug it in through here, run it up, and be ready to go. I'll have lights all over. Excellent. First thing you got to do though is snap it into place. That can be kind of a dodgy proposition because it snaps into place with some little plastic tabs that you almost feel sure are going to break. So it doesn't hurt to put a little lubrication on those, make them go in a little easier. Route the harness up. And the metal on this truck is probably not the way it came from the factory. Things have been bent, things have been pushed around. Might have to bend it back into place. Might also have to bend this a bit so that it is not interfering with the back there. Let's see. Can we get this in? It's a tight fit. Helps if usually you get one side slit underneath. You get a wide blade screwdriver to push in this tab. With that side in place, I push in on this side, pushing in gently on this spring tab, which is just a piece of plastic. Don't want to push in too hard, break the plastic tab. Sort of gently pry back on the bottom of this tab here while pushing in. Applying gentle pressure there and a pry from the bottom here. Tight fit. There we go. Oh, almost. One more time. Let's give that a try. Almost. Just got to wiggle that screwdriver out without letting that pop out. push on this. There we go. It's connected. No, it's not connected. You have to do the connection. Plug in that factory type connector. Let's use a little bit of dielectric grease so it goes together smoothly. Alright. And wiggle those two connectors together so that the electrical components, the male and the female, made up. Oop. What's that doing? This is pulling out. Something you don't want. The way the male connectors are installed, push that in. They have a little tang that you bend out. The tang on this one is not bent out. That allowed it to pull out of the connector. I just got to bend it over a bit. So that's not going to pull out when I try to plug in. Yep, still doing it. You can see it's got a little tang, and that's supposed to bend out over the plastic, prevent it from coming out. It wasn't bent over enough. So if you have a connector that's doing that, do not despair. Push it in, get a thin blade screwdriver, get it in that little tang, and twist. Make sure it's in enough that you can give a twist to it. Is that over enough? Let's see. Can't really see very well inside there. Let's give it a shot. Nope, still wants to pull out. Wonder if the housing itself is the problem. I do have a factory style external shell for this. Pull that through, bend it over. Oh, it's getting bent out of shape. But at least it's not pulling out anymore. Let me straighten that with a needle nose plier. Connectors are only some kind of copper alloy, so they're not all that strong. It looks like that's in now. Oh, no it isn't. I can still push it out. Doesn't seem to want to pull through far enough in order for that little tang to move over. Just some minor interference can cause that problem. Let's pull on it, try to wiggle it through a little more. Then bend it over. Is that enough? And it is. I can see, I don't know if you can see from there, that tab is now far over. Just going to keep it from pulling out. It is. Hallelujah. Let's make sure the other ones are good. That's good. That's good. All right. Let's prevent that problem by allowing for some extra slipperiness by using dielectric grease. Now, each of those connectors, each of those male connectors, should happily wiggle into the female connectors. This doesn't have any kind of lock on it. All it does have is an interference fit to help it interfere. Now squeeze it a little tighter. Some channel lock pliers give you enough reach to reach in there and squeeze those connectors into place. There we go. That's about how far it should go in. That's fully seated. Believe me, that is not coming out. Now, time to take off the protective plastic coating that the lens comes wrapped in, and screw it into place with a gasket. It has a gasket to prevent moisture from getting in to this housing. And then 2 screws. You want to gently, let me repeat, you want to only gently tighten those screws, because this plastic is fragile. The aftermarket replacement lenses are made from a plastic that seems a little bit more brittle than the factory lenses. If you're not careful, you try to cinch it down like you would the factory type lens, there's a good chance you will crack it. So, get it started by pushing down in the lens itself, and when the screw stops spinning, that's it. Stop tightening. You don't want to tighten this down using the screw to draw it in tight. You want to push it in against that gasket, and that's it. Replacement lens all in there. Now I just got to put the headlight back in, but look at that. Look at all that corrosion in there. Ugh, that's ugly. But I'm not replacing that right now. Just going to clean it up a little bit. Use some QD. And put the whole headlight assembly, which, going to have to clean those off as well. Well, you don't have to watch that. That's not very exciting. You've seen the hard part. How to make a factory style connection to plug in your replacement turn signals. I'm going to have to get something better to clean this. So, until next time, thank you for watching. This is how I worked on my Jeep J-20. Your truck or car may not be a Jeep, but it likely has factory connectors much like these. It's easy to replace and repair factory style connectors the way the factory did it. You can do it better, but you don't want to do it worse. Unfortunately, just about every repair that a previous owner did to this truck made it worse. Well, time to stop doing that. Time now to make it as good as it was from the factory. Alright, that's it. Thanks for watching. Hope you found this helpful.